keep a lot of these webinars for posterity. So I'll just set the stage by saying, we know that there is a demand for outdoor tourism and activating our outdoor assets. That's why y'all are joining us here. For me and for many of you, I'm sure it was the silver lining of the pandemic, right? We rediscovered the outdoors. All of our rejuvenation that we got made us value them so much more. And communities certainly want to build on that. They want to support their residents and give them that quality of life year round, right? Like we can never go back. And they want to stimulate their economy for their visitors so that there can be some recovery. And a number of natural assets, which Georgia is blessed with, are on that radar to do that. So, and some communities are approached with like big development ideas, right? How do you put all of this together and make us a trail town or a Mecca? So we're going to talk about some of that today. The data and the strategic plans of these organizations with us today all support this demand in helping you create the products, activate the assets, and get more people to it. Looks like, are my slides gone? Looks like I lost them on this end. Okay, pull those back up. It's the let's see, the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis that records the impact of outdoor recreation every year, and their numbers last year were over 10 billion. And for those of y'all following like the film movement in Georgia, that's pretty close tie in terms of a diverse part of your economic development portfolio that you can put, you know, hang your hat on and put some money behind, a $10 billion impact. So I will say that our panelists today at DNR, their newest SCORP plan promotes equitable access so that we can get everybody to these places. The Appalachian Regional Commission strategic plan prioritizes tourism and cultural heritages here. So you're going to hear about that. And at DCA, our Tourism Development Act incentivizes some projects that might specifically bring in some out-of-state visitation. So there's funding from all of them. We're going to look at the pipeline, everything from large to small. And I'm just going to give you a real quick visual on what this might look like to whet your appetite in your community. If you don't have a project in mind and you're just listening in today, or if you do, this is what it can look like. Trails and pathways to neighborhoods and retention ponds that become the beautiful center of a park. Outdoor activities at beautiful land in Georgia, on our land trails and our water trails. Lodging along a trail just about the time you need it because you bike too far, maybe in a rural town. Sometimes the actual connection, like the bridge that brings things together or connects two trail systems that didn't connect. Sometimes it's a space to play the hottest new 55+ game there is out there, pickleball. If you don't know about it, look it up. And for the young kids, water parks, amusement parks, places to play. You may be converting a rail trail to a trail in your community. Or you might have a new urban multi-use trail running through your community, connecting the schools, the parks, the colleges, the downtowns, all those important nodes. It could be that you realize that adding on a hotel with a conference center to an already beautiful outdoor destination would make you the place that everybody wants to go to a conference at because of all the outdoor things you can do in your downtime. Whatever it is, never forget that the amenities for the trail and the gateway into the outdoors is a terrific way to complement what it is that you're already building, whether it be a trail or a river launch or any of the activities that we've shown today. You can just know that you're creating the gateway, you're creating other businesses that supply you with the snacks and the gear that you need to go into that experience. And as soon as you come out, that refresh you and sort of complete the whole experience and make it a big picture worthy of Instagramming and telling all your friends so that everybody wants to come to wherever it was that you were in the Georgia outdoors having your experience. So that is my setting the stage. I will stop presenting here. And the order we're going to go in today is Annika, Taylor, and Cherie. So I will turn it over to Annika to get us going on Appalachian Regional Commission funding.
Good afternoon, everyone. I logged on early so that I could make sure this worked, and it only marginally worked. So we'll see what happens this time. It's great to have so many of you here today. Thanks for being a part of this. And I just have to say how much I've enjoyed having Tracy being a part of the DCA team over the last year, because she has brought this great new energy of time, not new energy, she's brought an additional bundle of energy for tying outdoor resources to community development in a stronger way. So I really appreciate that, Tracy. It's so great to work with you. So I want to talk briefly about the Appalachian Regional Commission and what we can do to help fund your community's needs. So we are a partnership among the federal government and 13 states, and it's pieces of 12 states. Did I just lose my screen?
I think so.
All right. Sorry. Yes. I don't know what happened. So I may have to talk without, I'm really hoping I can show you the pictures, because that's the important part. So we are a partnership of 13 states, pieces of 12 states, and all of West Virginia and the federal government. And so each year, ARC receives an allocation from Congress, and each of the states has an allocation. What am I doing wrong? Because every time I try, huh?
How about there? Does that show it?
No, yes. Okay. Did you take control, Tracy?
Yours weren't showing, so I pulled it up. Does that work for you?
Perfect. That works for me. Yeah. So my stipulation is that ARC's funding footprint only covers the top third of Georgia. So the 37 counties basically on the line above I-20, which is all of Region 1, all of Region 2, a little piece of Region 3, a little piece of Region 4, and a chunk of Region 5. So if you're in regions 6 through 12, if you need to take a little lunch break, I apologize. It is interesting though. Maybe you can take some of these ideas and use another friend's source. So Tracy, I think that means you have to go to my slides for me. Yes? Or can I do it? I'm afraid it's touching. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so I want to talk about some of the things that we've done with our funds. ARC has 5 goal areas, and excuse me, supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses, one of those goal areas, creating natural, historic, and cultural resources, or improving and preserving those resources, another goal area, and infrastructure is another of our goal areas. And I talk about those 3 specifically because we have, according to different projects, used different goals to achieve similar outcomes sometimes. So this City of Somerville project we used this as a business support tool, even though what we did with the money was build a bridge, literally build a bridge. The City of Somerville has a little train that runs during the summer and the nice weather months that runs from point A to point B. And Somerville is point B. The train turns around in Somerville and goes back to point A. And I'm saying that because I don't think it's Chattanooga, but it's somewhere close by. And the train station is about 2 blocks away from downtown, and it's up a big hill. And all of the downtown businesses are at the top of the hill. The train station's at the bottom of the hill, and there's this creek that you have to cross. Well, there was no pedestrian crossing. You could walk out to the road and go up, but there wasn't a sidewalk on that part of the road. So everyone would get off the train, and then they would basically be stranded 2 blocks from downtown for an hour and a half. And so ARC used funds to build this bridge. And this is, Tracy and I were actually talking about this one yesterday. This is a prefab bridge that we bought as a whole piece and plunked it down over that creek. And it's making a difference in downtown Somerville, because now these people that have come to Somerville on the train to have an outing have a way to get to the downtown. And again, we didn't call this tourism product development. We called this access to creating business opportunities for small businesses. Want to go to the next one? So we also use our funds for more of this traditional tourism product development. Now, our only caveat there is that we only do business with local governments, development authorities, or nonprofit organizations. So we can't have a business come to us and say, or a for-profit business and say, hey, this is what I want to do with your money. That's a loan. We work in the public sector. But the Satina Cucci Center is a nonprofit organization and came to us and said, actually, their project was kind of threefold. They had a huge array of pottery and North Georgia artifacts and art that they didn't really have a great way to display and wasn't very well cataloged. So we helped them catalog it, display it. We helped them create an app that described it for its users. And then we also helped them with some marketing along with the Helen White Chamber of Commerce to promote the area. Because again, Satina Cucci is very close to downtown Helen, but it's not, if you don't know it's there, you don't know it's there. So it's about a 15-minute drive and it's absolutely gorgeous, but without marketing, the only people that know it's there are people who've been there before. So that was a way for us to create visibility and expand a product that is already out there. I'm trying to keep track of the time because I can talk about this all day. So we do use our funds for creating destinations. This is Hartwell. So the downtown Hartwell, if you've been on the square of downtown, it's beautiful. It's very well developed. You get 1 or 2 blocks away from the square and there's not as much product back there. So this project, we actually did 2 projects that I like a lot in Hartwell. The one on the bottom of the screen is the depot that we helped the city refurbish so that they can use it as a farmer's market. It was in the parking lot of the city newspaper, and it wasn't a great space. So now they have this lovely refurbished depot and platform that they use as their farmers market. And I think I have a picture of this, but the other project that we did a year or 2 later was help them refurbish their what they had designated as their arts district. And it was about 70% vacant, buildings dating back to like the 1880s, 1890s. And the reason a lot of them were vacant is because the best practice of the day was to run stormwater under those buildings, which meant A, they were really insurable under 21st century guidelines, and B, they were full of moisture. And so nobody, if anybody that owned them didn't really want to do anything with them, and nobody really wanted to buy them. So they had this arts district with all of this product, but they couldn't use the product. So we did a stormwater project with them where we diverted the stormwater out from under those buildings into a better system. And since we had to tear up the sidewalks, we replaced the sidewalks much wider, ADA compliant, and allowed businesses to then set up outdoor seating and use the outdoor space better. So, and we did not call, we called that one an infrastructure project. And we also cited our business opportunities goal along with that one, because again, if it had been just infrastructure, it was kind of like, well, you know, what's the point? You know, we're not creating any new business, but saying we can't create business until we fix this problem was a different story. Okay, we can go on. This was probably one of my favorite projects. It's the only project I've done it. I've been in the ARC program since 2015, where we actually did a land purchase. That's really one of the hardest things there is to do with federal money is buy a piece of property. The only thing harder is to work with a railroad. But Buying land is not the easiest thing to do, but the Gainesville Hall Development Authority, I think it was the development, no, it was the Board of Commissioners came to us and said, we have this piece of property, it's 100 acres, it's for sale, it's got the oldest existing grist mill in this part of the state still on it. This land is facing huge development pressures. If we don't buy it, that mill is probably going to be torn down and it will become industrial use. And because they were able to cite plans that went all the way back to the 20th century, to the turn of the century, to the year 2000, where they had for 20 years or 17 years at this point been saying, this land is on our green space plan, we just don't have the money to buy it. Because they had this long range plan, we were able to say, okay, well, this isn't, because one of the issues with buying land with federal dollars is you have to have a really strong case why you chose piece of property A and not piece of property B. And having this in a plan showed that this was not just, oh, it's for sale, let's buy it. It was part of a plan where they had targeted this specific resource, this specific land for years and years and years. So we completed that purchase with them. Now, the thing about buying land with federal money is it is forever. It's not federal land, but the federal government retains an interest in that land forever. So if you choose to sell it, we have to talk. And I'm not gonna waste my time telling you about that. So I think I only have one more, maybe two more. One more. The city of Dahlonega was a project we did last year, actually 2020. So it again is building on the current success of downtown. The Holly Theater was a small nonprofit organization that had come into ownership of the Holly Theater and came to us and said, we need $600,000 to refurbish the inside. They had used USDA funds for the exterior and needed money for the interior. The problem we had with their structure was they're a very small nonprofit organization that had like a $50,000 or $60,000 budget each year because they don't have they have one full-time employee. And everyone else is a volunteer. And we can't really give somebody 10 times the money in their annual budget to manage. And so we worked with the DDA and the Downtown Dahlonega, the Downtown Development Authority for Dahlonega and the City of Dahlonega were the applicants. And then the Holly Theater was the subcontractor. And the reason that Dahlonega was willing to take part in this product, even though it's not even owned by the city, was that they realized what an asset to the city the theater was. And they, because the theater was able to show us they were open 80 nights a year. And when they refurbished their interior, they were going to be able to attract larger names to perform at the theater. They were going to be able to be open more nights a year. And being open more nights a year allows the businesses surrounding it to be open as well. And using that strategy, they even got some letters of support saying, if we do more business, we're going to have to hire more people. So again, this was a downtown development project and a historic preservation project, and we called it a business development project because it gave this community. It gave the existing businesses in the community an opportunity to have access to more clients. And additionally, I was just there in March. Already another theater organization has opened right next door to this place. Crazy, in the middle of a pandemic. All right, I have one last slide, I think. And then this one is, if you have not yet been to Chautauqua County to see Paradise Gardens, you should go. You should go. It's a cool place. Talk about preserving Appalachian culture. Howard Finster was a folk artist and created this incredible space up in Chautauqua County that basically is built out of remnants of other things. and we did not pay for any structures there, but what we did pay for is a plan for how they can, over the years, rehab the existing structures, market themselves, and how because they own a big piece of property and a lot of it has kind of been grown over, and so they have a plan for what to expose and when, or not expose, but what to rehab and when. So we're able to cover everything from planning dollars to implementation dollars, and we're able to do everything from literally build bridges to theaters to marketing plans. And so we are one of the most flexible of all funding organizations that DCA manages. And so I'm really hoping, I made a presentation similar to this for Tracy at the Tourism Chautauqua, and out of that presentation, I had 4 new projects. So I'm really hoping that we'll get a couple new projects out of today's presentation as well. I'm out of time. All right, thanks, Tracy.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely perfect. And just as a review, there are the strategic goals from the ARC that you can fit your project into. And you heard about the many different buckets that Annika fit the projects into. And certainly today, you know, bucket number 4, building regional culture and tourism, is one that we thought might be of interest to all of you. So stop with those slides because we have Taylor coming up next. And, you know, keep in mind today that you'll have these links to all of these places to make the applications. If any of them are timely or pressing, we'll let you know about that. And then, of course, if you didn't hear when we first joined and started up today, there'll be some homework for some other funding. So, but right now we want to focus on what DNR has to offer, and we're going to let Taylor take it from here. And let me know if you need help with the screen or anything.
Okay. I'm going to try, but we'll see.
Okay.
I feel like I'm so good at Zoom now, but Teams still gets me.
Same here. Okay, I see a cover slide.
Okay, great. All right, well, like Tracy said, I'm Taylor Brown. I work for the Department of Natural Resources. Here today to talk to you about our opportunities for funding for conservation and recreation projects. All right, let's see if I can figure out how to go to the next slide. All right, so do y'all see a different slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. So at DNR, we have 3 different federal and state grant opportunities. I'm going to go through each of them today, but they have a lot in common. Again, they're all focused on conservation or outdoor recreation. So the first is our Land and Water Conservation Fund. That's a federal grant program. We have our Recreational Trails Program. That sounds just like, or it is just what it sounds like. It funds trails. It's also federal dollars. And then we have our newly formed Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program, which comes from state dollars. So all of these are federal or competitive grant opportunities for outdoor recreation and conservation projects. So while they all have some similarities and some differences, each one of them, you must complete an online grant application. Which can be found on our website. That's going to ask for things like your project scope, your budget, some kind of site plans, and your partners. Every project is going to ask that the applicant provide matching funds. All the projects are on a 2-year timeline, which starts the day our project agreement is signed. And then all of our programs are reimbursement based, which means the applicant pays up front. You send us invoices, and then we pay you back that way. Going to go through each program just a little bit. The Land and Water Conservation Fund, that's our oldest one. It started in 1965. Chances are that your community has a park in it that was funded by Land and Water Conservation. 95% of our counties have funding in them, and over $100 million have been put on the ground since we started in 1965. So those projects are based on how they score against our SCORP, which Tracy mentioned earlier. We just had a new SCORP come out. So that'll be for 2022 to 2026, which can be found on our website. I'd encourage all of you to go and visit it. We're in the process of making those digital copies into hard copies, but these funds are available for cities, counties, and recreation authorities, anywhere from 25,000 to 500,000. So you can imagine that's a pretty big difference in what kind of projects we fund in that program, which is really exciting. But it does require that every community make a 50% match. And then when we talk about eligible projects here, think of traditional outdoor recreation that you would see at most of your parks. Could be a playground. Like Tracy mentioned earlier, we saw a lot of applications for pickleball courts. Splash pads are also super popular, or maybe it's just maintenance for your ball fields or things like that. But those are going to be what you would traditionally think at your local recreation facility. All right, next, our recreational trails program. Again, exactly what it sounds like. It's going to fund all of the trail rehabilitation, construction, maintenance, any kind of trail amenities. These funds are also available for cities, counties, authorized commissions, state agencies, federal agencies, and then nonprofit organizations are eligible, but they can only use it for educational funds. So these grants are up to $200,000, and the applicant is required to make a 20% match. For eligible projects here, you know, a lot of times we just think of trails as traditional multi-use trails, and while those you can be funded through this program, we really encourage everyone to think outside the box on these. I don't know if anyone's visited in Smyrna. There's an awesome new mountain bike trail in their park at North Cooper Lake Park. It could be for ATV trails. We always have funding available for ATV trails. So if that's something that your community would be interested in, that'd be great, because you're going to get those funds, absolutely. And then water trails are also something that's very popular. So that wouldn't be for the river itself, but it would be for kayak or canoe inputs and outputs. All right, and here's just some examples of those. And then lastly is our Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program. Like I said, that one's newer. It's only in its third year of funding, and it's a state grant and loan program that comes from an existing tax on outdoor recreation equipment stores. It provides stewardship for state parks, state lands, wildlife management areas, and the acquisition of critical conservation lands. So again, these funds are available for cities, counties, recreation authorities, state agencies, and non-governmental entities. This one goes all the way up to $3 million, starts at $500,000, and it's going to require a 25% match. Now, the reason this one can go up to so high is because we're looking for really regionally significant projects. So this is not going to be your local park in your community that needs a facelift and some new ball fields and maybe a new playground put in. This is going to be for big conservation projects. So I've got a couple examples that we funded so far on here. Again, we're only in the third year, so there are not a lot of examples, but Ceylon WMA in South Georgia was bought using outdoor stewardship funds. We're doing a big camp and paddle partnership with TPL, the Trust for Public Land, on the Chattahoochee. Done a lot of conservation work on WMAs in Southwest Georgia, so a lot of planting so we can harvest those pines later. And then I don't know if anyone's had the chance to visit the Chattahoochee Nature Center, but just did a really cool boardwalk up there. They have almost 50,000 kids that go and visit that nature center every year. So that's a big opportunity for kids to see parts of the Chattahoochee in nature that they are not usually able to. So as far as our upcoming funding opportunities, the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program and Land and Water Conservation Funds will open application cycles this fall. And then the Recreational Trails Program will be available in 2023. We don't have those funding allotments yet determined, but we usually give out between 25 and $30 million each year. So a lot of funds to work with. We do virtual educational workshops. Those will be held in June. I'd encourage you to attend those, whether you have a project in mind now or something sparked today, or you just want to learn more about the programs. And you can sign up for those on our website. So what can I do now? I saw a lot of people signed up are from cities and counties, so I'd encourage you again to go on and sign up for our email updates. Go ahead and check your eligibility. We do require you to be in good standing with DCA as a qualified local government, so always best to check that before you fill out the application. If you already have a project in mind, I'd strongly encourage you to go ahead and contact us to talk about it. We can go through, tell you how we think it's going to do based off of our evaluation criteria, tell you which program it's going to score best under. And then the biggest one is go ahead and talk to your authorizing officials who will sign off on this project. I know there's no worse feeling than getting really far down the road on something and then being told no by your boss. So go ahead and get them on board and you're able to find those matching dollars. And then our workshops that I mentioned earlier, you can sign up on our website. We're going to announce those very soon, but those are a huge help. Almost every person that is funded through our programs attends one of those. So I think that they really help you just know where to start, know more about the application and about what you're taking on. And this is our contact information. I'm not sure, I think Tracy will share these slides after, but again, go ahead and contact us if you have any questions. And Tracy, that's it for me.
Terrific. So I think you guys are kind of getting the feel today that you are talking with the people and hearing from the people who make decisions today on this webinar. And they're offering you opportunities to attend workshops and to preview and to get counseling so that your project makes it through the grant process and out the other side. So certainly glad that you were here taking advantage of that and connecting with these folks. We will move on to our third presenter and then entertain any questions for all three after that. Let's see, so we'll stop sharing that screen, or you may need to do that, Taylor, did you? Okay, and then our next presenter up is Cherie Bennett. And Cherie, do you have slides?
I do, yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to share them now.
Okay, great.
Okay, can you see those?
Looks good. Cover slide,
Okay.
Georgia Tourism Development Act.
Yes, yes. So I'm going to be talking about this program today, and the purpose of this program is to provide a state sales and use tax refund as an incentive for large-scale tourism development projects in the state that will help create jobs. And these projects would not exist if not for this refund. So there are projects that are in need of funding. The projects that would be eligible for TDA would be those that are cultural or historic sites, recreation or entertainment facilities, convention hotels and conference centers, automobile racetracks, golf course facilities, marinas, water parks, and Georgia Crafts and Products Center. By far, most of the applications that we have received have been for convention hotels and conference centers. We have never received an application for a racetrack, a golf course, or a marina. And we've also never received one, I don't think, for a Georgia Crafts and Products Center. And that may be because they are primarily retail markets. So what would not be eligible for a TDA project would be those facilities that are over 50% devoted to retail, like a mall. That would not be eligible, or a mall or a movie theater or a restaurant, or a mixed use development like that would primarily be used by locals because we do have an out-of-state visitation requirement connected to this program. And then renovation costs of an existing tourism attraction would also not be eligible. If you were to consider making an expansion of an existing tourism attraction, that would be eligible, but renovation costs would not be eligible. Because we did have so many folks coming to us about convention hotels and conference centers, and we were getting tons of calls from just say like a Hampton Inn on the side of I-75 wanting the TDA. We had to set some criteria for convention hotels and conference centers. So we have these now. So what we're looking for is a minimum of 15,000 square feet of conference room meeting space, at least 150 guest rooms. And then out of these 9 amenities, you would have to have at least 6 of those amenities. And these are a full service restaurant that has minimum seating for at least 75 people, concierge service, full service business center, high-speed wireless in the conference facility, audio visual equipment installed in the meeting rooms. Again, that one was added because we were getting smaller hotels that, would wheel in the audio visual equipment on a cart, and that those were not eligible. 18-hole golf course, spa facility and services, or other on-site recreation options like a tennis facility, sports fields, a water park, indoor or outdoor water park. But again, to try to eliminate those smaller hotels, we are not including as a recreation option like an indoor pool or a small outdoor hotel pool or a fitness room. And the last one will be actively maintain nature trails and or nature tours. Projects like this, as I said, they're large scale projects. They have to be over $1 million of investment in a brand new tourism attraction to the state of Georgia or an expansion of an existing tourism attraction. These attractions have to be open at least 100 days out of the year. And then for each year following the 3rd year of operations, the 3rd year that they're open for business, they have to be able to prove that they can attract at least 25% of the visitation from out of state. And when folks call me about the TDA, that's probably one of the first things that I ask them is this something that is going to be able to attract at least 1/4 of your visitation from out of state every year? Because that's something that they're going to have to prove in their application. And then each year when they, if they are approved and they go to Department of Revenue to request their refund every year, they will have to prove the 25% out of state visitation. So what is this sales and use tax refund? What ultimately why would somebody want this? This program, if approved, if the project's approved, would allow for the developer or the approved company that's creating this tourism attraction to receive every year for a 10-year period, one of 2 amounts. Stay with me on this because this gets confusing and a lot of people get confused, but there's 2 numbers, either the amount of sales and use tax generated that year by the attraction, or 2.5% of the total cost to build the project, to develop the project. Each year, the Department of Revenue, if the project's approved, will look at those 2 numbers, and whatever the lesser of those 2 numbers is, that's the amount of the refund that the tourism attraction will receive. So for new or expanded tourism attractions, eligible project activities would include things like real estate acquisition, the construction, and then the equipping of the tourism attraction, the installation of various facilities and all the infrastructure needed to support the attraction. But as I said earlier, renovation costs for an existing tourism attraction would not be eligible. This does apply to state of Georgia sales and use tax, and it can only apply to it can also apply to the local sales and use tax, or the local portion of the sales and use tax if the local government where that tourism attraction is located in agrees to give up their portion of the sales and use tax. Doesn't happen very often, but it could. And a developer or applicant for this program is not eligible to simultaneously claim the Tourism Development Act refund and any other state tax incentive. So you've got to look at this alongside other state tax incentives to determine which one would be most beneficial to the developer. So eligible applicants are developers or owners of tourism attractions and development authorities. We have never had a development authority come forward, but they are eligible under the statute. A pre-application, it says strongly encouraged. I would just say you have to do it. It just helps because if you move forward with a formal application, the formal application requires a fee. And I don't think you should have to pay the fee if you're not eligible. So I would say go ahead and submit a pre-application. It's not that difficult. First of all, I think though, maybe give me a call and we can talk through the process and see if it's even eligible. And, but then you would submit a pre-application. It'll be vetted and then you will be invited to submit a formal application. And prior to a formal application being submitted, we would want the local government to pass a resolution going ahead and saying that they do approve the project. And then, of course, you need all the supporting documents that we asked for in the application, and this is a list of those. So we'd want to see a business plan, a marketing plan. In the marketing plan, we'd want to see your first 5 years projections of how much you're going to spend on marketing, particularly how much on of marketing money you're going to spend on trying to bring in folks from out of state. Economic and financial projections, those visitation projections and estimates. Again, we're looking at to make sure that you will be able to bring in a fourth of your visitation from out of state. Cost estimates, financial statements, commitments from the bank for all financing. Evidence from the local government that the project is in compliance with all local zoning and land use development regs, a site plan, and then a project timeline. Also required in the application is an independent consultant's report. And by independent, we mean a nonprofit corporation or entity that is attached to a research university that provides market research and fiscal impact services. At this point in time, and we've been doing this since around 2012, we have memorandums of understanding with the University of Georgia, Carl Vinson Institute, and Georgia Tech Center for Innovation. So they are the two consultants that are attached to research universities in Georgia that are doing our independent consultants reports. The report is going to provide an independent market study and public benefit analysis of this project, as well as they're going to validate any numbers that are supplied by the applicant. So if the applicant says, oh yes, we're going to bring in 75% of our visitation after the third year of operations from out of state, this report will try to validate those numbers to see if, instead of 75%, they may only be able to bring in about 10%. They will let us know that in the report. Also, the cost of this study is the responsibility of the developer. So the applicant will have to pay for the cost of that study, although DCA actually has the MOU with Georgia Tech and UGA to get the report and make sure that they provide the information that we need. There is a fee for the application, and it is the lesser of 0.5% of the estimated refund for the 10-year period, or $10,000, whichever is lesser of those two. And the applications are reviewed by DCA staff. And then final approval or denial is made by both the Commissioner of DCA and the Commissioner of the Department of Economic Development. What are we looking for when we review the application? We're looking to make sure that that local government has approved the proposed project, that the sources of funding are already in place, and that all the proposed expenditures outlined are eligible under this program, that the proposed market has been substantiated, that they will in fact be able to attract 25% of their visitors from out of state. That the tourism attraction project will have a significant and a positive economic impact. And we look particularly at whether or not it's going to compete directly with maybe an existing tourism attraction that's already there. We wouldn't want to take business from a very similar tourism attraction that already exists in the state of Georgia. We also look at whether or not that the amount of tax revenues and economic impact generated by the tourism attraction is going to exceed the amount of refund that the state of Georgia is going to give up to the approved company. And the tourism attraction, we do not want it to adversely in any way affect existing employment in the state. So those are the things that we look at. And these are some of the projects that we have done. I think this is the better part of the presentation because you get to look at some pretty pictures, but this is Sokya Water Park, which was an expansion of the Lake Winnepesaukah amusement park. It was a family amusement park that had been operated up in Rossville since 1925. And they came in for an expansion of the amusement park to include this water park. Has like an 880-foot lazy river, 4 tube slides, kiddie pools, bathrooms, that kind of thing. It was a $6.3 million project. And they were able to show that they would receive about 50% of their visitors each year from out of state, which makes sense because they're right there on the Georgia-Tennessee line. It's not difficult for them to bring in out of state visitors. And this also created about 100 new jobs up in the area. Lake Point Sporting Community is another one of our approved projects up in Bartow County. It's a 1,400-acre mixed-use project up there, located right off of 75 near Red Top Mountain State Park. The application came in for a sports complex, which included 8 baseball fields, 3 multi-use fields, 120,000 square foot indoor sports facility, a rally volleyball complex. This is a huge project that was definitely able to bring in over 25% of out-of-state visitation, created at least 100 new jobs. Huge project up in Bartow County. This is their indoor sports facility where they host things like cheerleading competitions and volleyball competitions and all those indoor sports. This is their volleyball complex. And then they also have a wakeboard training park as well. Great Wolf over in LaGrange, Great Wolf Lodge and Convention Center. There are about 12 Great Wolves around the state, and so now Georgia has one. This project is about a 450,000 square foot project that included 400 guest rooms, a 70,000 square foot indoor water park, 100,000 square feet of family entertainment, and 20,000 square foot conference center. DCA has actually held their statewide conference there a couple of times. This is the indoor water park. They receive about 30% of their visitors from out of state. I wonder if that number has actually gone up because every time I'm there, I see when I'm in the parking lot, I see tags from all over. So I wonder if their out-of-state numbers have gone up. It created about 250 new jobs in the area, and it was about a $155 million project. Foxhall Resort and Sporting Club down in Douglas County is another project that received our funding. It first opened around 2012, but came in to us for an expansion where they want to build a 200-room Westin hotel, another 250 rooms they call the villas, a 60,000 square foot conference center, and then additional amenities like a spa, restaurant, fitness facility, swimming center, banquet kitchen, and business center. Lots of outdoor recreation opportunities down there, from shooting to fishing. They have an equestrian center down there, golf course. They actually say that they have, let's see, they have archery, fishing, ATV riding, equestrian trail rides, hovercraft, and an additional 30 recreational activities and amenities out there. This is a $150 million project that is supposed to bring in about 54% out-of-state visitation and actually create around 500 new jobs when this is completely built out. So they have built some of the villas at this point, still about to break ground, I think later this year, on the Westin Resort Hotel. So those are just some examples of projects in the state, just to kind of give you a flavor of the types of projects that we have funded. Like I said, if you have any questions about a potential project, or as a city staff person, you've talked to a developer about a potential project and you want to just run that by me, please give me a call and I'll be glad to talk to you about it.
Thank you, Cherie. Well, we really covered everything from the small to the large in this moment so far, and I know y'all have questions. I'll just say that in my role here at DCA and previously at GDEC with Explore Georgia, I heard of endeavors all across the state where you guys were trying to implement things like this. So I won't name any cities or counties, but I know there are things on deck. I know some of these tools should help you. Annika, was there a timeline for getting into any of your programs or getting funding this year?
So yes, if you want FY22 funding, you're too late already for the May 6th deadline, but we will have another deadline by the end of June, about June 30th, to get a full application to DCA. So I realized I don't have a slide with my name on it for some reason. So my email address is annika.woodruff@dca.ga.gov, and my phone number is 706-566-4200. And like Cherie, I recommend that every project idea starts with a call to me or one of the regional commission staff, just to make sure we're at least in the same book, if not on the same page, before we get started.
Right. And we heard Taylor give the deadlines for the grant programs. Cherie, is yours a rolling deadline?
We accept applications year round. And I'm sorry, I thought that y'all were seeing my slides, but now I'm looking and it looks like were y'all able to see my slides?
Yes.
Or did
Yeah.
it end at some point? Okay.
We did see them, yeah.
Good.
We've got about 6 minutes to wrap up. Karen, do we have any questions that we can address?
So someone asked if the slides will be shared after the presentation, and they will be. And as we mentioned, this is also being recorded. So we'll make the recording available on our agency YouTube channel. There was a question about making the deadlines available, and I think that was since addressed. So, and what we can also do when we send out the presentation, we can send out links to some of the information that was referenced in this presentation, whether it's to Taylor's programs or Annika's or Cherie's.
Right. And speaking of links, I will bring up a couple here on our closeout slides. And these, of course, will be live links when you get the slides. Let's go here to. Right. So I mentioned that there was even more funding, and let me make sure before I jump to this, were there any other questions about the funding discussed today?
I just at Betsy Egger's recommendation, put my email address and phone number in the chat because
Terrific.
I couldn't think of it myself. So thank you, Betsy.
Great, thank you. So in terms of more funding that we know about and that we hear about in this field and that we don't have panelists to represent today, I'll just let you know that the Trail Fund from American Trails has an application that's due in a couple of days. Theirs is more about stewardship and maintenance of existing products. The Project for Public Spaces has a grant that's due in a couple of days, and public spaces can very well be elements of the outdoors if they are a park in your downtown or a connecting trail from your downtown to a nearby amenity. So consider that when you think of public spaces. The EPA last year ran a RERC, stands for Recreation Economy in Rural Communities. There's a webinar tomorrow from the EPA and American Trails detailing more about that. Their application last year wasn't due until November, so I believe there's some time if they're rolling that one out again. And of course, ARPA funds, many of you have been using them in all shapes and forms in your community. And I'll just say that even though this one has recently wrapped, the Economic Development Association noted that the bucket of funding for tourism, trails, and the outdoors closed on February 10 because no surprise, they got more applications than they knew what to do with. But they say right on their very own website that even though that closed, see if your project fits into one of their remaining buckets that is still open. For example, indigenous people's land and projects in that space. Assets that stimulate the economy and help with economic recovery. There are just a number of other buckets other than the one labeled trails and tourism and outdoors that you may find a home for. So don't give up on ARPA. And then, of course, there are some other ways to get assistance in this state. Our friends at GMA have a placemaking program that you can enroll in and get some real hands-on assistance that does come with some grant money to do what, you know, they advise you to do once you've learned from them. The UGA Archway program has a new one that's for connecting resilient communities, just getting the university more out in the communities than they were ever before. And that comes with some funding to implement things. An example is they recently helped McDuffie County with a trail project. And of course, we have a brand new one, Karin, you can help me with this, the Rural Downtown Redevelopment Fund, while not specifically for the outdoors, is focused on rural downtowns and recovery. And it could be that an example like in Winder, I've heard of, this is not an applicant, but it's just a project where I've heard they're connecting their downtown to Fort Yargo State Park, which Taylor is probably like a mile away. And the trail is to bring all that park business into the downtowns and get refreshment.
Yeah,
So-
and GOSA actually funded part of that trail too.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah,
So
it's
Karin,
open
are there any
next
other ways to use that last one, the Rural Downtown Redevelopment Fund, for this audience?
So, and I will just to throw this out there, if you haven't heard of it, you hopefully will in the coming days, but this is brand new funding that was just put in DCA's budget in the amended fiscal year 2022 budget. So we weren't expecting it. It's about $17 million for projects. I mean, theoretically statewide, it is a rural program, but there's no set definition of what rural constitutes. So we're kind of leaving it up to communities to tell us why you're rural. And we're anticipating, so it's a one-time pot of funds, and we are opening up the applications that, you know, in the coming weeks. They are due June 3rd. They have to be allocated by the end of this state fiscal year, which is June 30th. So it's a very quick turnaround. So we're looking at projects that are basically ready to go, if not for some funding. And so, so we're looking at awards anywhere from 1 million to 5 million. We're anticipating, and you know, these are projects that need to be transformative for a downtown area. So it could be a trail connection that really brings assets to the downtown, or vice versa. I would suggest, if you have a potential project in mind, reach out either to your DCA regional rep like Tracy or me, or Kim Carter, who is our division director over our community finance division, because it's brand new. There will be a webinar about the program itself and the applications. Not sure of the exact date, but I expect it to be announced within probably this week. The NOFA went out on Monday, and so we're trying to get that webinar scheduled. So there'll be a lot more information. But this is kind of like so many things that have happened recently. This is a once in a lifetime funding opportunity. And we'll make sure that the information about that webinar gets sent out to the people that registered for this as well.
Yes, thank you for summing that up. And so to wrap up, of course, never forget putting a project on your SPLOST referendum locally and relying on your friends group to do some fundraising. I know many of those are already in place. And there's one more educational opportunity. The annual Outdoor Rec and Trail Summit is in Augusta in May, so exactly a month from today. I think it's only $125 for the entire experience. Take a look at that if you need to send some staff and, you know, come back with some ideas and some networking and space. And then we'll have two more of these type of topics on
Tracy, can I
small
say one
business.
thing
Yes,
really quickly? I'm so sorry. Another pot of money that ARC, and this will be the federal office, manages, is going to be one of those once in a lifetime kind of deals. And it's a $50 million pot, and there is no limit on the ask, but we haven't written the specific rules yet, but the requirements are that it must connect states. So if you are on one of our
Border.
edges, and we border Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina, and South Carolina. So we are lucky to border 4 other ARC states. So if you have even an idea of how to do that, let's talk. We haven't written the rules for this for this fund yet. We're going to be doing it in the next few weeks. And one of the things is you can use that money for planning. So if you have an idea, we can say, all right, well, we need a couple $100,000 to plan it out over the next few years.
Terrific. So all of that is recorded. Anybody who missed it can hear it later, and we will be ready for the inquiries on the existing grant funding for outdoor assets, the new hot off the press this year, one time only opportunities. We'll be ready for all of those conversations to continue. As I said, this is recorded. Thank you to our panelists today for presenting tons of great information.
Thank you, Tracy. Looks
And we'll
great.
see you all at the next Lunch and Learn.